Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the lab number 115LV1. This is a vial of 100 springs is what it is. I have one removed here from the packaging that we can take a look at. Yes, indeed, it's a quite small item for the camera to focus on, but nonetheless, there it is. This is a very typical spring that you're going to find in the common lab universal kit. What I call the universal kit, the .003, .005 green lab kit. Take a couple of basic dimensional properties of this for you, then we'll switch to the screen view and take a look at some supporting documentation. Outside diameter is 0.104, 0.104 outside diameter. A length of this item, and I'm just going to put it on my desk, I'd say we're going to be about 0.529 inch in length. 0.529 length. A wire diameter of this, if I can get my caliper to pinch just the wire itself, 0.01. 0.01 is what it is. 0.01. So basically a 96th, 0.01, yeah, 96th of an inch is the wire diameter. Now, some supporting documentation down below. Let's switch now to the screen view. Now, this is indeed what we're looking at here, long springs. Not much to see here, but here the link to the manufacturer's catalog here will allow us to review the product catalog, and from here we can locate the item that we're looking for. And I'm just going to do a find function on my keyboard for spring, and I know that I'll get to the page where the springs are listed. And indeed, that's what we're looking at here. Standard universal spring. I think we've got a 115. Yeah, 115L. 115L. So the 115, that's going to be a reference to the diameter or the chamber diameter of what you're working with. There are different diameters, not chamber diameter, but the diameter of the pin that we're working with. 115 is very common. Smaller is common for other systems. Much smaller is common in at least one system I can think of. Kaba. If you're doing Kaba and running Schlage, that's a very small pin. Medico is a larger diameter pin. The 115 is also representative of the standard kit, as I had said earlier. Now we're doing the L, which means the long spring, and we're doing a 115LV, which is a vial, versus P, I think, for package. I like the vials because you can stand them up in your box and look and see better what you're missing or what you have too many of. What's not there and what's there in too much quantity. Versus the packaging. These are okay, but they're kind of harder. It's more work to be able to see what you have, in my opinion. There is a tangle-resistant version of this, and I can tell you from first-hand experience, those do tangle less, there's no question. You buy the .003 Emerald kit from Lab, the Universal Pinning Kit, the classic Pro, I call it the Emerald Wedge, whatever it's properly called. You're going to get those standard 115L springs inside of that 003 increment kit. I own at least three of these kits. It's nice, when you've got multiple people keying locks, it's just, having a kit that is just yours for that time is important. Plus, you do, with a keying kit, you do certainly, at least I do, develop over time a sense of ownership, because you know that you are, if you're a very good steward of the kit, you appreciate those that are, and you don't take kindly to those that are not good stewards of a pinning kit. Anyway, so the 115L spring is on that page, and on that page, there's two pages actually, that will show several and many other different springs, and I can only tell you that using the proper spring is absolutely required for pinning cylinders. I've tried, pinning Falcon IC using the correct spring for that. You run out of these springs and you try to make the best style work. It's not going to work. It will not work correctly. You need to use the right spring. One spring that I noticed that they don't have listed here is they don't make springs for everything, is what I'm driving at. The Medeco sidebar springs are not here, which, like I said, Lab doesn't make every item. Different pins that are here, different diameters. 0.108 for the interchange of the small format. 0.115. 0.95 for some cabinet lock work. I don't see anything that's thicker. I know Medeco is. So the spring page is very handy in that regard. The rest of the kit, the rest of the catalog, I should say, is incredibly valuable as a resource because Lab not only manufactures outrageously high-quality products under their own brand, but they do for major lock manufacturers as well. You're going to probably have great success using this catalog to be able to do much of your locksmithing needs. However, for every different platform of lock, there is a factory original kit for it. I do own the Lab 003 Emerald. I have a couple of the much smaller kits that I've used in the past if I'm going to a job site and I know that I'm just pinning 2 locks, some very small quantity. This very small kit here, the 003 increment is the one that I like. And the increment is the distance from the length of pin A to pin B to pin C to pin D, if you follow my meaning. It's in 0.003 increments. I find the 005 increment to be too great when I'm pinning a client's locks and this cylinder is decades old and everything is worn out. I don't like to put a file on pins or on cylinder plugs ever. So just working with what you've been given, having an 003 increment is the way that I personally like to go about doing it. I'm not a fan of the pins being color-coded. That is a weak point when it comes to being able to visually decode what pins are in a cylinder. You have to be reasonably skilled or at least familiar with locksmithing to be able to do that. But nonetheless, it's a design flaw that the pins are color-coded, although that is it's most likely a very discounted concern by most people, and I would, most of the time include myself in that. The cylinder cap removal tool, if you're doing Schlage and you've got to unthread those caps, I assure you that buying this tool, albeit outrageously expensive, will be worth it the first time you use it because it just makes it a breeze. You're doing a job of 60 deadbolts, and goodness gracious, seconds count because, tick-tock, it's 5 o'clock. You don't want to drop this. I, one time many years ago, dropped mine, and I bent 2 or 3 of the teeth, and I could never get it exactly straight again. Well, of course, I denied myself buying a new tool. Well, I gave up years later and finally did. Great tool. Formed end tweezers are nice. I'm not a tweezers person, but many people are. Picking tools, they call them turning tools. It would be a tension wrench, really. Decoding block for small format. They say interchangeable core. I don't see where they're saying small format. They're not telling us what center to center these chambers are. I would have to imagine it's 150 thousandths, which is typical for small format interchangeable core. But there are others that do not have that 150 thousandths. Hager has 140 thousandths. Kaba does as well. I've never used this decoding kit for Medeco. An instructor I had in an Aloha class had never used it either, but had been told that it works quite well. Key gauges, pinning trays. I've never used a pinning tray, but I'm a fool. All people who are expert either use or have a pinning tray. That's called a pickle fork. Literally, if you called Kwikset and asked them for the pickle fork, This is what it is. This is their cylinder removal tool for their typical 400 series locks. Anyway, you get the point that there are a lot of very helpful tools and a helpful resource here. In decades of using Lab, I've never once encountered a faulty manufactured pin. Not once. Let's wrap up this video on camera. Now, in conclusion, you might consider the tangle resistant model as well. They are nice. These springs do tangle. If I were to pour some of them out of here, I assure you that they're going to be tangled. The tangle resistant just makes that process a little bit easier because you're not trying to unthread or get springs taken apart. You know, the more locks you pin over the years and thousands of locks, every little microsecond that you can shave off is good. Any questions on the Lab 115L spring, which is a V, a vial of 100, or any other Lab product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.